like Marner leaving, as we've stated 15,000 times in the last 3 weeks, you were never going to replace him 1 for 1. You can't. You're not even going to replace him 3 for 1.
Yeah.
Like no, like if you were to put together a trade of Michelli, Waugh, and Joshua for Marner, obviously you would get laughed. Like you would be fired. Your own owner would say, "Why did you even waste people's time? You're out." That's not a trade that even is possible to dream up. But he was leaving. He was going to go. He wanted to go to Vegas, so he went to Vegas. So all you can do is deal with what's available to you. And this is the market. Like this was what's available, and they're still, I'm sure, kicking tires, and other teams I'm sure are still kicking tires. But I think what I'm taking out of this, and it changes, there's ebbs and flows in the league all the time, but I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on drafting and developing again. Like that's something that I do think is going to hit the Leafs in the nose at some point. Like, you got to start finding your own guys. You got to trust your own people. You got to bring up your own people that you can control, that you have on ELCs, that you can get to, when they're RFAs, so you can give them a 6-year deal like Nyes and like Velarde. And that applies to every team in the league. Like the best way to build up your program, it's the most difficult, and you have to get lucky and you have to be patient. But draft, develop, let them grow up together, gives your GM a lot of options if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's a really long range and mature view, and I'm with you for sure. But right now, where the Leafs are, like, they're trying to get to a winning point right now. So I think there has to be 2 streams. I think you have to have the stream you're talking about, which is drafting, developing, and being patient, but then trying to mine some diamonds in the rough that you might find, and you just highlighted the 2 guys that the Leafs traded for. You can go over to Europe, look around there, maybe college, free agents, whatever, and try to figure that out, and then the trades. So I think you have to have multiple ways of approaching it. Mm-hmm. And I always, when I talk to guys and that are young players, and what's the team doing for you? Well, they don't have a lot of people working with me for development. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, there's no cap on that. I'd be spending money like crazy, like a drunken sailor, like the PA guy that went down and
yes.
What's his name?
Lloyd
Howell Jr.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Lloyd. I'd be spending money like that guy, but I'd be spending it on development of my team and drafting scouts and development. Those things, because if you can find a 5th rounder that becomes even a player, just
yes.
a player on your team, that is massive. Or if you can turn a guy who's maybe a borderline player into an AHL player, that's worth it. That investment's worth it when what you think about you have to trade for in assets. So I don't know, Jonas, you're a lot more dialed in than I am, but I don't understand why teams aren't investing heavily, really heavily, in those 3 areas.
I can only speak for here in Toronto. They do. Like, they invest a ton in that stuff. I don't know if that's going to continue now with Keith Pelly. Like, I don't know what the cost-cutting stuff is going to look like. But they definitely do that. They just haven't had they've traded a lot of picks, number one, and they haven't had a lot of success at, like, actually hitting on picks. Like, Nyes is like, is he like the best non-first round pick they've had in, I don't know, ever?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But he's the exception. If you look at, like, forwards that they've hit on in the last 10 years, I looked at this recently. I think it's like Nyes, Robertson, Holmberg, Minton, who's gone, Gerbenkin, who's gone. No, I just mean forwards. Yeah, and if you want to add forward, you can add a Wall, and then, like, defense, it's like there's Sandin, Liljegren. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that they've done well enough, and part of it obviously is trading first-round picks, but, like, teams find players outside the first round all the time. So,
and that's the key.
Yep.
That's the key, outside the first round, right? You've got to find some gems there, and then develop them too. It's not simply, the player didn't develop. Well, what could we have done differently? How could we help that player?
Well, yeah, I mean that and like you said, there's no cap on it, and there's no rhyme or reason for why you can't do it. But if you don't pick the right guy, doesn't matter who you have working for him. If he's not a player, he's not a player. Like you got, and it's diamond in the rough stuff. Once you get outside of the top, even 10, it's a gamble. It's a crapshoot. Like, is there a big difference between the guy being picked 28th and the guy being picked 38th? No, but the 28th overall gets to call himself a first-round pick, right? Where the 38th overall is a second-round pick. But there isn't that much difference, and that's. There's different ways to build. There's different ways to do it. I get it. It's not, and everyone's in the same boat. The competitive teams, if you're a very competitive team for a long time, you're going to trade picks, you're going to trade prospects. But I guess, I'm not even talking about the Leafs in particular. I'm just saying if the league is going to be more about keeping your players, then you got to make sure you have the right guys in order to pay them. Like if there's just not going to be a free agent market, and maybe it's different. Maybe next year there are 4, 5, 6, 7 stars that make it. But if the stars in particular keep staying and you get to July 1st and it's more depth players, then you're not ever going to build a Stanley Cup winner on July 1st. And maybe that's never happened anyway, but that's kind of what I take out of the last 2 or 3 weeks.
But
there weren't enough impact players available.
But I don't think you should be trying to build your team in July 1st. I think you're trying to fill holes, right? Trying to fill the top of your roster. Tell me the best July 1st signing in recent memory, right? I mean, Tavares has been productive for the Leafs. I think Hyman's another guy who's been productive. Right?
Yep. Hyman was a great one. Yep.
For the Oilers. I think back to a number of years ago, but Chris Drury and Scott Gomez both signed with the Rangers. It helped them. I don't think they didn't take them to the Stanley Cup, right? And so, I think you're trying to just find, just slot guys in and fill a second line or a third line or fourth. I mean, Nick Ehlers a good player, but is he changing the whole dynamic of what's going on in Carolina?
No, he's not. And conversely, if you're in Winnipeg, you probably wanted him to stay.
Oh, yeah.
But you can live without him, right? You have to. That's the sport. And I think this is a win, again, getting back to the news of the hour, that Gabe Vilardi signed a 6-year deal at reportedly $7.5 million. Is now you got him on term, you got Scheifele on term. Connor's going to be a big one. I think Kyle Connor, does he have 1 year left on his deal?
Yeah,
I think so.
They can extend him right now.
As of now. And that one is one I would think they are actively trying to do.
That's any extensions? Has there been any extensions?
No. Not that I'm aware of. Not a year out. Obviously McDavid being the biggest one that we're waiting for.
Well, Eichel? I thought Eichel would have
hasn't.
signed it already. I don't know. I'm not an insider. I thought Eichel would be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
I want to stay here. This is good. I like it here. I've won a cup. To me, that's you believed in me as a team. It's okay. I could do the searching. I thought for sure that was going to be done.
And the Marner bar is there now. I'm sure he's going to say I got to make more than him. Maybe he takes 12 on the nose, but I would think if I'm Eichel, I play a more prominent position. I think he's a better player, and he's been there longer, and he helped them win a Stanley Cup. So he's probably all right, I'll take 13. It shouldn't be that complicated. If Marner's making 12, I'll take 12.5 or 13. But that maybe it is complicated, because maybe Eichel's looking at it saying, well, Draisaitl signed for 14 a year ago, and now the cap's going up. I want 14. And then that's when it gets a little bit dicey all of a sudden, because Vegas, has been a team that's been very cap compliant. They've been very active. They brought in a lot of different players. They've been probably the most proactive team in hockey, maybe in pro sports, period, the last decade. But if you lock in Eichel at $13 million, $14 million, and you got Marner at 12, those are 2 big commitments all of a sudden. Those are 2 guys making a lot of money.
Do you guys ever wish that there was more player movement in the NHL?
Sure. I mean, for the nature of our business, it's always way more compelling when you get, crazy trades and more movement. But it's on the players in order to push for that.
But so how would that work? Shorter contracts, is that the only way? If you're the NHL and you were we want to have more intrigue around our league. We want players to move around more. We don't want players just staying with one team their whole career.
I don't think that. I think the way around it is get rid of no movement clauses. Get rid of no trade clauses.
I agree.
That's what stops trades.
Yeah, I guess that's
teams would trade players in a heartbeat. It's players don't allow it, because I think the nature of our conversation is proving even if you can only sign a 3-year deal, players will just keep re-upping if they like where they are, right? Like the players that get comfortable somewhere, like Sidney Crosby would have signed 21-year deals in Pittsburgh, right? He